episode 35 of Just My Opinion. This episode is entitled Gentrification. And the reason why it's entitled Gentrification is because recently over the Labor Day holiday I went to a cookout in my old neighborhood in which I grew up in, which is in West Philadelphia, the Mantua section. And going back to the old neighborhood, I know it's been a lot of change in the neighborhood. A lot of the old burned out, abandoned, crack dens, graffitied up, are being renovated and being turned into luxury apartments. The neighborhood is cleaner, and it's more of a diversity in the neighborhood. I.e. meaning there's more white people living in the neighborhood. When I grew up, it was a starch black neighborhood. White people was on the other side of Spring Garden Street, down by Drexel University of Pennsylvania, which they call that little section University City. I think it's good that people are seeing value in the neighborhood. Because for so long we've been looked down upon as the ghetto, the slums. If you wasn't a police officer or fireman, or you didn't have no business like that, they wasn't coming to the neighborhood. Meaning white people, anybody that wasn't black and Hispanic wasn't coming to the neighborhood. I think it's good that people are seeing value in our neighborhood. People investing in the neighborhood and improving upon the neighborhood and making the neighborhood better and cleaner. But let's don't do it at the expense of the residents that have laid down roots in the neighborhood, that have lived in the neighborhood for decades and raised families and generations of families. Now the rent is becoming so high in the neighborhood that many of the people that grew up in the neighborhood are moving out because the rent's too high. And they have to move somewhere else. A lot of people don't want to move, but they're being outpriced. By some of the landlords and some of the developers that are fixing up and improving upon the neighborhood. This gentrification is going on all across this country. In cities like Baltimore, New York, D.C., Detroit, Chicago, this is going on everywhere. Where they're building up and improving upon the neighborhood, but they're building up and improving upon the neighborhood for themselves. For so long, we've been looked down upon urban neighborhoods and urban areas as drug infested, too violent. Don't get me wrong. I think it's good to have diversity in the neighborhoods. But don't do it at the expense that you excluding people that's lived in that neighborhood and raised families and been in this neighborhood for generations. they're going to build a supermarket actually across from the block that I hung on, which is good because there haven't been a supermarket in my neighborhood since like 97, 96. Supermarket burned down, and they never put another one in my neighborhood. So it's good that they're putting amenities and stuff in the neighborhood, but let it be for the current residents too, not just for the college students. That the apartments and houses just for 4 years while they're in college, but for everyday working people that live in that neighborhood. Put amenities and build up the neighborhood and clean up the neighborhood to make it more better livable for them too. Make it more better livable for them as well. This is where home ownership becomes important. Because if you own your home, they can't raise rent up on you anything to get you out. But the average person in that neighborhood make about $25,000 to $40,000, if that much. Property values are going up sky high in the neighborhood. Lots are selling for $200,000. And that's because gentrification. I don't see gentrification as being a bad thing. But I don't think it's a good thing if you exclude the people that's been living in the neighborhood, struggling and surviving in that neighborhood. And now you want to come and remove them for somewhere they've called home for years. And this is happening all over America. All over America. The hood ain't the hood no more. That's a fact. And I think slowly but surely, there won't be no more hoods. There be hood people. People still have hood ways. But I think slowly but surely, there won't be no more hoods. And that's a good thing. But this gentrification isn't right. If it penalizes the people that's been living and working in this area for years. When I caught it, though, the neighborhood was changing. They built some townhouses on 39th and Union. And I'm like, okay, nice houses. They wanted $150,000 for the houses. And all the while, right down the street, you have guys selling drugs and prostitutes. Who want to pay $150,000 to live right down the street from people dealing drugs and prostitutes? That was the beginning of the gentrification. And we cooked out, we had a good time, whatever. And we had white people walking through the neighborhood jogging 9, 10 o'clock at night. And what y'all see, that's a change. Possibly for the better. Because they're not afraid of us no more. They're not afraid to come in our neighborhoods, to live around us, and to intermingle with us. Another thing too, they knocked down mental health projects. So once that got knocked down, that was the beginning of the gentrification. Gentrification could be a good thing. Don't ever get me wrong about that. But don't exclude the people that's laid down roots, been living and surviving in this neighborhood, in this community, for decades and forever. Children born there, and their children was born there, and their children were born there. 1985, it was unthinkable. 1995, it was unthinkable to see white people walking through the neighborhood at that time of night and feeling comfortable. 2005, it was unfathomable. 2015, it was unthinkable. Here it is 6 years later. Now, they're living everywhere amongst us in the neighborhood. But y'all don't have a problem with that. But it's starting to. Investors are starting to buy people houses. And when they're buying the buildings, they're raising the rent on people. Which make it impossible for someone that's poor to live in that neighborhood to pay that rent. And this is going on across the country, gentrification. You can't turn the slums into paradise. But don't exclude the natives, the people that's been living there. The people that's always been in this neighborhood. I have no problem living around people of other ethnicities. I have no problem with that, with all of that. But don't outprice me and others out of our own neighborhood that we've been in for decades. That isn't right. So thank you. Like, share, and subscribe. Bye.